Former UNFCCC Executive Secretary, Patricia Espinosa launches an ESG consulting firm focused on climate change. Former Executive Secretary of the UNFCCC, Patricia Espinosa, has announced she is launching an ESG consulting firm focused on supporting private companies and public institutions to succeed in addressing the most pressing threat to humanity, climate change. Espinosa was appointed Executive Secretary of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change in May 2016, and served until July 2022. She played a pivotal role in securing international support for the Paris Climate Agreement adopted in 2015 and in completing the set of rules that allow for both the effective operation of the agreement in all its aspects, including a strong market for carbon trading as well as a reliable transparency framework to ensure international accountability. Under the Paris Agreement, all countries committed to reduce their emissions, enhance resilience and dedicate financial resources to fight climate change. Prior to her UN appointment, Espinosa was Minister of Foreign Affairs of Mexico from 2006 to 2012. In this role, she led the COP16 climate conference where the Cancun agreements were adopted, one of the foundations on which the Paris Agreement was built. She was a member of the panel of experts convened by the UN Secretary-General to advise on the Global Development Framework beyond 2015, which formed the basis of the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, and a key contributor in the inclusion of SDG 13, climate action. After 4 decades of diplomatic leadership and action, she is now bringing this legacy of experience and cooperation to 1.5. Motivated by the urgent need to turn the goals of the Paris Agreement into effective action and tangible results, Espinosa has founded 1.5 to help private and public institutions navigate the challenging transition to sustainable practices and limit temperature rise. Science tells us that global emissions must be reduced by nearly half our current rate in just 8 years if we're to limit global temperatures to 1.5 degrees Celsius, Espinosa said. At present, the combined plans from all nations to achieve this puts us on a trajectory towards a 2.5 degrees Celsius rise and higher. Espinosa said her new venture allows her to share her expertise on climate change with businesses, governments and civil society organizations that are ready to commit to ambitious climate action and to adapt to major economic and regulatory changes underway around the world. Climate change is the biggest challenge of our generation. Every region of the world is impacted by its devastating effects, said Espinosa. If we're going to stop the climate crisis, we all have to work together to prevent global warming from exceeding 1.5 degrees Celsius. That requires organizations and governments of all sizes to cut greenhouse gas emissions by at least 45% by 2030. 1.5 partners with private and public sector organizations that want to introduce ESG-friendly practices and explore internal operations. The firm helps identify weaknesses, opportunities, disruptive technologies, regulatory risks, tech partners and sources for green financing. Their partners and consultants provide tailored advice and practical strategies for implementation to accelerate transition in line with the Paris Agreement. Growing ESG global market movement. The ESG approach is increasingly informing investment decisions in light of the indispensable transition to sustainable business practices, along with the opportunities and risks that this entails for companies of all sizes. Espinosa says the opportunities for the development of ESG strategies span across multinationals, tech, finance, telecommunications, real estate, retail, transportation, industrial goods and manufacturing. Sustainability is no longer a choice, it's a long-term survival strategy, said Espinosa. And for those willing to take the lead, it offers the greatest economic opportunity of our times and a chance to shape the future of their businesses, of their communities and of the world. About 1.5. 1.5 is an international consultancy firm specializing in ESG-related issues with an emphasis on climate change. Our overriding thesis is to act as a partner to both private and public sector organizations as they explore their internal operations and seek to introduce more ESG-friendly practices. We assist in identifying weaknesses, opportunities, disruptive technologies, regulatory risks, regulatory interpretations, technology partners, sources for green financing, and many other services. Media contact Mark Macias, press at 1.5.io, at maciaspr.com.